Every AI vendor you meet is going to try to sell you an AI-based capture system, browser recording, workflow documentation. Just show the AI what your people do and you'll be fine. And for traditional incumbents, that'll work. Capture is easy now, commoditized overnight. Tier 1 companies can afford to let their teams accumulate thousands of demonstrations and figure out what to do with them later. They've got the headcount, the consultants, the runway to brute force it. Welcome to the Enduring Advantage podcast. I'm your host, Zachary Alexander. Middle market CEOs can't afford to simply allow their teams to accumulate in hope. You need something that compounds from day one, which means that the question isn't, how do we record our workflows? Every vendor will solve that for you by Tuesday of next week. The question is, what happens after capture? Because traditional technologies only capture mechanics. They don't capture judgment. They don't capture why your best people make the decisions they make. They don't capture which patterns deserve immediate attention and which ones reward bad habits. That's curation. And that's where the AI native battles will actually be won or lost. Here's what accumulated hope actually produces. Your teams record demonstrations, hundreds of them, browser workflows, process documentation, meeting transcripts, AI-generated summaries. It all goes into the same bucket. Your context engine doesn't know any better, so it indexes everything. AI natives call this work slop. If you look close enough, you'll see companies indexing their own mediocrity and calling it AI transformation. Your context engine has no opinion. It can't tell the difference between a demonstration that captures genuine expertise and one that encodes bad habits. It retrieves the meeting summary a tech tourist produced to check the box the same way it retrieves the process your 20-year veteran actually uses to solve problems. Your 20-year veteran knows work slop when they see it. The new hire can't tell. And the AI, it retrieves work slop with the same confidence it retrieves institutional knowledge gold. This is what capture without curation gets you. Not an advantage layer, a work slop repository that compounds mediocrity at machine speed. Traditional incumbents won't notice. They're well-funded. They buy custom solutions. They expect to hire consultants to clean up their mess later. Middle market companies don't get that margin of error. What you index is what you become. Let's go deeper and talk about what the process looks like for incumbents. Tell me if you recognize what I'm saying in the comments. Someone with AI literacy, a consultant, an internal champion, a vendor's implementation team, analyzes the data, then produces a workflow. Depending on how clean the data set is, they may not actually interview the people who do the work. They extract what they think they need to. Then they translate that understanding into prompts, system configuration, and automation logic. Then workers execute using these pre-built structures. They didn't build it themselves. They don't really understand them. These are literally black boxes as far as they are concerned. They just follow what the translator created. You know this is the case if you start to hear terms like done for you. This is an expert-first translation, and the bottleneck they are trying to avoid is obvious. You need someone who understands both the domain, what the work actually requires, and the AI capabilities, what's possible to capture and automate. Bringing in outside help is difficult. These people are scarce. They're expensive, and there aren't enough of them to go around. But here's a deeper problem. Knowledge dies at the translation step. Internal experts doing the work often can't articulate why they make certain decisions. It's muscle memory, pattern recognition. I just know. The translator captures what can be verbalized, the tacit knowledge. The stuff that actually makes the expert good at their job never makes it into the prompt. This is why most AI implementations feel like they're missing something, because they are. Translation is a lossy implementation process. You're compressing decades of judgment into a prompt written by someone who watched it for a week. Traditional incumbents accept this loss. They are more than willing to sacrifice detail for speed. They throw more translators at a problem so that they can cover the more ground faster. More consultants, more implementation cycles. They brute force their way to good enough. Middle market companies can't afford the resource draw. So you're stuck waiting for a translator who may never come, or paying for one who captures half of what matters. That's the trap. The drone maker play inverts this. Worker first demonstration. The worker does their work while being recorded. The system captures the mechanical sequence. No translation required at the point of capture. The worker doesn't need to understand AI. They don't need to explain what they're doing or why. They don't need to articulate the tacit knowledge they can't put into words anymore. They just do the thing they already know how to do. The demonstration becomes a reusable skill because of what goes on in the advantage layer. This removes the upfront translation bottleneck entirely. You're not waiting for a scarce, expensive translator to extract knowledge from your experts. Knowledge capture becomes a byproduct of work rather than a separate documentation project. The 20-year veteran finishes their task. The system captured it in reasoning traces. Done. This is the accessibility inversion. The barrier to capture collapses. The tools exist now. Browser recording, workflow automation, show don't tell interfaces. That lets existing workers generate raw material immediately. It may not be supported by a legion of certified contractors, but that doesn't matter to drone makers. Now let's talk about the middle market advantage. You probably have people who deeply understand your operations. You probably don't have a bench of AI engineers. The old model penalized you for that. The new model makes the expertise you have more valuable than the expertise you lack. But here's what others won't tell you. The expertise requirement doesn't disappear. It relocates. Someone still needs to look at that demonstration your 20-year veteran just recorded and answer a harder question. Is this worth automating? Or did we just capture work slop? Something that just looks informative. Capture got easy. Curation didn't. So what does curation actually look like in a drone maker posture? To start, you don't decide which demonstrations matter by looking at them. You deploy them in small test, experiments, and low-stakes contexts. See which ones survive contact with real work. Most don't. That's the point. 95% failure rate is the reason why many traditional incumbents have soured on AI. They ran pilots, most fail. They concluded AI doesn't work for their businesses. Drone makers think differently. Cheap failures act as sensors. Each one maps a piece of terrain you didn't understand before. Where does the pattern hold? Where does it break? What condition changed? The 95% that fail in small experiments aren't waste. They create a distributed sensing network, telling you what not to concentrate on and revealing the shape of the landscape you're actually operating in. Next, the advantage layer isn't a gatekeeper making big judgment calls. It's the processing infrastructure that turns sensor data into strategy. But someone still needs to watch for the patterns. You can use AI enhancements, but AI, like drones, need operators. Which demonstrations keep working across different contexts? Which ones break the moment conditions shift? Where are the edge cases that the recording didn't capture? Someone needs to recognize when a workflow encodes a bad habit versus genuine expertise. Your 20-year veteran is good at their job, but they're also human. They have shortcuts, workarounds, things they do because that's just how we've always done it. Capture doesn't discriminate. It records it all. Someone needs to combine multiple demonstrations into coherent workflows. One recorded task isn't a system. It's a fragment. The value is in how fragments connect. And that connection only reveals itself through deployment. This is a different kind of expertise than translation. Translations require someone who can extract knowledge and encode it into prompts. Rare, expensive, bottleneck. Curation requires pattern recognition across an adaptive swarm of small experiments. The game will be won or lost based on your team's judgment about what survives. Different companies looking at the same data will make different decisions based on company priorities. That's not AI literacy, that's operational excellence. And you probably already have people who can do this. They just haven't been allocated to the task. Here's the thing. Demonstration and experiments capture mechanics, not judgment. The 20-year veteran's recording showed, go here, click this, paste that, generate. It didn't capture why this tool instead of another. What makes the approach good, when to deviate. How to recognize when the output is wrong. The actual institutional knowledge isn't in the demonstration. It's in what survives repeated deployment. It's in the adaptive layer that observes which patterns compound and which ones collapse. The context engine still has no opinion. The advantage layer is where the opinion emerges. It's something incumbents miss entirely. They evaluate demonstrations against current workflows. Does this pattern make us faster is what we already do? Does it reduce costs in this department? Does it improve the process? This is the single-use fallacy. Knowledge is captured to serve the context it grew up in. The advantage layer reveals something else. When you run hundreds of small experiments across different contexts, you start to see which patterns hold beyond their original environment. The price and intuition your veterans developed in one product line, does it transfer to another? The customer objection handling that works in enterprise sales, does it hold in mid-tier sales? Institutional knowledge isn't single use. It's been trapped in a single context. Your 20-year veteran didn't just learn how to do their job. They learned patterns that help them execute their job. The sensing network surfaces those patterns. The advantage layer separates them from the industries, contexts, and containers they grew up in. This is transfer value recognition. Not what do we know, but where might what we know compound? Where may it be valued? Circuit City asked this question. They saw their retail expertise wasn't about TVs and stereos. It was about pricing transparency, inventory management, and managing customer trust in big purchases. CarMax is what they built with that expertise. Kodak asked the same question and chose a different answer. They came away with how do we protect our film business? The same answer most traditional incumbents would arrive at. What do we know that transfers? That's enduring advantage. Most incumbents would miss that they had expertise in imaging, digital processing, and precision manufacturing. They would never get to the second question. What do we know about what will transfer? Traditional incumbents would be too busy trying to figure out how to protect the container, the industry. Your advantage layer isn't just optimizing current operations. It's mapping which institutional knowledge has value beyond the context you captured it in. That's not a side benefit. That's a strategic asset most companies don't know they have in the building. So here's the question you're actually facing. It's not, do we have the talent for this? You do. The fact that you have a functioning middle market company proves it. It's not, do we need additional AI expertise? Drone makers make light work of billion-dollar defense systems all the time. The question is, who are you going to put on this? You already know who they are. These are the people who look at a new process document and know instantly whether it reflects how the work is actually getting done. They're the team leads who spot patterns across 3 or 4 failed initiatives that everyone missed. They're the ones who get the call when something breaks and nobody can figure out why. They know work slop when they see it. They've seen it get worse. They just haven't had the infrastructure that makes their judgment compound. The drone maker imposter simply relocates the expertise required to where the people already live.